Okay, so welcome to another episode of the Swim Parent Show. Today, oh, by the way, what we're doing here, if it's the first time you tune in, welcome. Basically, what we do, we give you the strategies, the tips and tricks that will make you or your swimmer, your child, swim faster. And these are tips and tricks that nobody else is teaching, or not a lot of people teach. These are like we'll call them secrets or whatever, but most club coaches either don't know them or they don't teach them, but they make a huge difference. And for those of you who know my story, struggle with severe performance anxiety for a very long time until I was 23. And then at the University of Virginia, I had the opportunity to work with the sports psychologist of Michael Phelps, and that changed my swimming and it changed my life. Okay. And so a lot of the strategies that I speak about, I didn't invent them, but I'm thinking it would have been nice to kind of know these strategies when I was 13 instead of when I was 23. And so that's why I'm trying to pass them on to you guys now. Now, listen, today's topic is, and it's kind of like leading on what we learned on the swim camp and swim camps. If you are interested, there, like every day, people are signing up. We just opened the pre-registration. The official registration starts on September 7th on Sunday. And on Sunday, we will have a live call where you and I will kind of walk everybody who wants to be there on a Zoom call. We'll walk you through the specific strategies that we use during the camp in Tenerife and why we do what we do. Because some of the stuff is like unexpected and surprising and stuff, but it's very effective and fun, right? So we walk you through what it is specifically that we do and why we do it, why it's so effective, why people come to us in the off season, in the summer, and then after a couple of days they actually PB for like drop like 3 or 4 seconds in 100 flat, right? It happened just a couple of weeks ago. And so we'll walk you through all of that, and then you will have a what we call an early bird offer to lock in your spot right now and all that. So we explain how that works. And so if you want to come, what I suggest, whatever platform you're watching on, just drop a comment below. I'll see it, and I'll send you a link to register for that Zoom event. Okay, but today's topic, I want to talk about 7 truths about competitive swimming that I wish I knew when I was 15 or 13. Doesn't really matter. Okay, and so the first one is hard work beats talent any day of the week, especially, and that is especially true when talent gets tired. Okay. And so another way to say this is that volume is the price of greatness. Okay. And what I mean by volume is not necessarily kilometers. What I mean is that swimmers who race the most, who test themselves the most, and fail the most are the ones who rise to the top. And we don't have to guess on that. Like we can just look at the research because again, there's been people before me that are way smarter than me and have been doing this their entire lives, and they kind of look at basketball and football and American football and baseball and swimming. They look at all these and tennis. They look at all these sports. And one thing we know for sure is that the people, like let's take Michael Jordan in basketball. Okay, so he was the top scorer, the best of all time, etc. Right? But also, it's true that he was the one that took the most shots, and he was the guy who missed the most shots. Does that make sense? Um, just adjusting the volume here a little bit. So in a way, that's what I mean. Like you put yourself out there. So for example, for swimming, you can be great at 200 fly if you don't put yourself in the position to do a lot of these 200 flies, right? Which may seem scary to, but you just to do well in 200 fly, you have to do lots of 200 flies, even though they're hard. I get. Okay, does that make sense? And so in a way, it's like you want to put yourself into difficult positions a lot so you can fail early. Okay? There's no successful athlete, there's no successful person, there's no successful dad and mom and business person in an artist in this world that has not failed often. So in a way, the more often you fail early, learn from it, move on, right? Okay. Hard work beats talent every day of the week. Okay, that's this. By the way, just as a side note here, I don't want to spend like too much because I want to get through all 7 in like a reasonable time. But like um, some very famous sports psychologists, what they're saying is like if you have a scale from like 1 to 10, and it's like 1 is just beginner level, and then 10 is like absolute world class, right? When you look at that, what they're saying is like level 1 to 6, maybe 7 is like talent. But then after that, if you have enough talent, everything after that is your character, right? And so because you see, at some point the air is going to get a little thin, and the difference is not going to be in the talent, it's going to be in the work ethic. Okay, so just know that if you have enough talent. So what I mean, if you're a sprinter and you do 50 freestyle and you're like 140 tall, right? You may not crack like the world. You may not have a crack at the world's record. Just like, and you got like small, tiny hands and like you're very not flexible and mobile and stuff. It's probably not going to work out, right? But if you have enough talent, after that, it's all character. And that's where hard work comes in. Okay. Talent doesn't matter after that. Okay. So that's number one. Number two, consistency beats intensity. Doing the boring stuff, like going to bed early, eating the right things, having like little habits to recover and all that, right? Doing the right kind of things in training every day will move the needle a lot more than occasionally coming to training and have this epic set. I heard Coach Bob Bowman, coach to Michael Phelps, Leo Marchand, Shane Cassis, Regan Smith, now Summer McIntosh, right? So arguably is the best team in the world, and he's produced champion after champion, not just champions, like actually like the world's best swimmers, and a lot of them, not just one, a lot of them. And what he's saying is like when you look at like Leon and Michael Phelps, there's a YouTube video by the way. It was just uploaded maybe last week. I highly recommend just type in like Bob Bowman interview and then look at the more recent one. See that kind of compares Michael Phelps and Leon Marchand. It's really amazing if you're into that kind of stuff. But what he's saying is that Michael Phelps rarely had these days when he had like a 10 out of 10 workout. Were very, very rare. But also, what was very, very rare was that he had like a really terrible workout, like a 2 out of 10, right? So a lot of times he was just 8 out of 10. And then sometimes he fell off the wagon for like one training and he went down to like a 4 or 3 out of 10. But the next day he like bounced back and he was right back to that 10. And so that's what I mean here is that if you can consistently be an 8 out of 10, that will always beat like being a 4 usually and coming in and having a 10 out of 10 or 11 out of 10, right? Once every month. I hope that makes sense. By the way, we can also look at injuries, for example, right? When you look at again all kinds of sports where there's a lot of research, a lot of data on it, what we find is that the players or the athletes that are the most successful over the long run are the ones that are injured the least. Because what happens is when you start training, you build momentum and everything, and then you get injured or you get sick, you fall back here. And then you have to build again and you fall back here. And you have to build again. It's not just frustrating, it's also just not as effective as it could be if you didn't have these like gaps to fill all the time because you're getting sick or you're getting injured. Right? It's the same thing. Consistency just beats intensity. Okay, so that's number two. Okay, number three, winners collect reps, not excuses. Every lap that you swim, every turn, every start is a rep, right? And if you start stack enough reps, the time that you're going to swim in competition and in training is going to take care of itself. Does that make sense? And so I remember when I was younger, I had a very bad mindset because every time something didn't work out, I would blame, oh, I just like didn't not feeling good today. Oh, we had a hard workout yesterday. Oh, we were training hard the whole week. Oh, we got a competition coming, right? I gave myself excuses every time, and I was not swimming to my full potential. It's just as simple as that. Okay. So winners collect reps, not excuses. The simplest, like, and to like figure out which one you are is just if you ever make an excuse about anything pretty much that's your point, right? It could be that you're making excuses to the coach when the coach is giving you feedback and you're kind of defending it and making an excuse for that. It could be that you give an excuse, a way out to yourself. You just got to be honest. You'll know when you make excuses. It could be that you're making excuses to your teammates or whatever, right? You'll know when you make an excuse. And I'm saying it with a lot of heart, right? I'm not saying, oh, you got to do this and this. I'm just sharing what I wish I knew earlier in my career, because I know I could have been a lot more successful in swimming and not just be in the Olympics, but who knows? I'll never find out. I'll never find out. But that's why I want you guys to be more successful than I was, by having these kind of strategies. So if you find yourself making excuses, check in with yourself. Why? Why? Like, there's literally nothing good coming from making excuses. Yeah. Cool. Number 4. The best swimmers don't avoid the nerves, they master them. In other words, the game of swimming is won in the mind. And that is true for competition, of course. Okay. Because calmness beats chaos in competition. But it's also true for in training because swimming is a hard sport. We're making a lot of sacrifice. We're putting our body through a lot of like physical challenges and pain and suffering, right? And we got to do a lot of things right. We got to put in a lot of time to go places. And if the mind is like the chicken and the egg, which one was first, right? So is it that athletes, swimmers become great, they're like really fast and then develop a good mindset? Or is it that they were kind of younger and they had a good mindset, or somebody helped them develop a good mindset when they were young, and because of that, they started to become good, right? And so it's easier if your mindset isn't where you want it to be right now, then it's easy to say, oh, yeah, he or she's got a great mindset because she's so good. But ask yourself, why did she become so good? Was it just talent, or was the mind involved, right? And what you find, so I can't prove it to you, but just from reading so many autobiographies and then being like in seminars with people who've worked with absolutely world-class athletes, and I've worked with an Olympic champion, right? So I have a feeling, I can't prove it to you though, but I have a feeling that for this case, chicken or egg, I know for myself that the mind is first. And if we develop the mind, the body will follow. Okay. It's certainly been true in my life, not just in swimming. It's also true in my business. It's true in my relationships. It's starts in the mind. And that's what I'm saying. The game is won in the mind, right? There's no point in like when you get nervous before a meet, like it's normal, right? Because you can't. There's no point in like avoiding that. It's what you have to do is you have to master it. And that's why, by the way, I learned this from Roger Federer. It's a very good point. Like I met him at the first time I met him was in the Olympics 2012. And we were like the Swiss team was so there was like tall building, almost like a skyscraper in London, right? The village. And we were the Switzerland team was like kind of on the top of that. So we had a really good view over the entire village and all that. And then there was an afternoon when Roger came and he just kind of hung out with us for a couple hours on the rooftop. It was really nice. And we got to like talk to him and everything. And he told me this story, and there's also like a YouTube channel video on that. I think in somewhere in America, he gave like a graduation speech or something. The question is, why are tennis players mentally so much tougher than swimmers? They're also physically tough, but I think we swimmers were physically very tough as well. But mentally, they have a huge advantage over us swimmers. And that is, and again, that's what I learned from Roger, is that in tennis, think about the biggest difference between tennis and competitive swimming. Think about a match versus a competition, right? In a match, how long does the match go? Like 2, 3, 4 hours, maybe 5, okay, at least for a man. And theoretically, you could win only 50.1% of all the exchanges, and you could win the match and advance in a tournament, right? So what that means is only a little more than half of the points are actually good for you, and the others, the other guys may be hitting an ace, you're making a double fault, you're hitting it in a net, you're hitting it out, whatever. And so when you have a bad point, or the other guy does a good point, there's a little bit of a break, and the players walk back to the back line there, right? And then one of them gets the ball and like dribbles, the other guy stands there with the racket waiting for the serve, and there's a little bit of a break. And what the tennis players have to learn in that short amount of time is that whatever happened before, they have to learn to refocus and come back in the present moment and let that go. Because if they let that bad point that they just had 20 seconds ago determine how they're going to play moving forward, they're going to make more mistakes and they're going to lose the game, right? So if they don't learn it, they're not going to be good tennis players. And they have hundreds, they have thousands, they have tens of thousands of opportunity to learn that skill, to refocus after something didn't go according to plan. And they have that in matches, they have it in training, they can learn that all the time. Now compare that to swimming, where we go to a competition, right? And we get up on a block and we race, and it was not what we expected. Maybe we're sad, we got nervous, whatever, and we're like 2 seconds over PB. And then next thing that we know is the whole 4-day competition is over and all the races were shit. And then the next opportunity that we have to refocus is after the meet. So we get what? If we swim 10, 20 max competitions in a year, we got like 10, 20 of these opportunities to learn to refocus, which for me, it's not a surprise that we're not very good at it, right? So what we need to do is we need to engineer and find situations in our everyday life where we can learn to refocus. So we can do it hundreds, thousands of times, all the time. I thought something doesn't go according to plan. I'm gonna refocus, put myself in the present moment again, center myself, ground myself. I'll let go of the shit that just happened, and I'm gonna do the best that I can for this thing that's coming now. Okay, training, repetition, repetition, repetition. Okay, that's what I mean by we want to master the nerves. Okay, and by definition, if you're a master at something, to become masterful, to have mastery over something, the only way there is repetition. Okay, repetition is the mother of all skill. Tell me something in your life that you're good at that you not learned through repetition. And it's my imagination that there's nothing. If you got something, please put it in the comments. I'd be very curious. I've asked these questions to thousands of people in keynotes and everything, and I've never had a single hand go up. Because honestly, like if I'm giving a keynote and I'm just asking that question and the hand goes up, I'm like, oh my God, what's coming now, right? So I don't think it exists. Mastery, the only path to mastery is repetition. Okay, and just like you train your muscles and your technique, you got to train the mind. Okay, hope that makes sense. Cool. What we got? Number 5. Small habits lead to big results. You probably heard that one, but it's also, you see, knowing something to be true, like this one, that small habits lead to big results. No, it's true. But doing it is a different thing. Knowing and doing are not the same thing. And when it comes to habits, we in our online like mental training program for competitive swimmers, right? We always say, change your habits, change your life. It's as simple as that. Okay. And you don't want to because you can't unless you're like a superhuman. And if you know how to do it, again, I want to know in the comments, please. Okay. But you can't change all your habits at the same time. So people who look very disciplined and just tend to do the right things, and you're like, oh my God, how do they do it? It's not that they have more discipline. What happened was they used a couple of weeks and they used their willpower to install a new habit. And once it becomes a habit, you no longer need any energy to do that because it's a habit. And then you use the willpower, right, to build the next habit that stacks on the habit that you already built. And you just continue doing that for a couple of months and couple of years. And all of a sudden you seem like this amazingly disciplined person who always makes the right choices. But it's not, Rome wasn't built in a day, right? And that's the same thing. It's like you change one thing at a time and you make sure that it becomes a habit. That is the most important part. You got to do it until it is a habit, because at that point, you no longer have to think about it. It requires no more energy. You just become that person. Okay, really good example is brushing your teeth. I assume, I hope that before you go to bed, you brush your teeth, right? And so your parents will remember that when you were little, there was a time when you didn't want to brush your teeth. And so they told you, Marcus, go brush your teeth. And you're like, all right, mom. And you go and you brush your teeth. The next day, you don't want to brush your teeth. And then mom says, or dad says, Marcus, go brush your teeth. You're like, okay, mom. And you go and do it, right? Now you're an adult or like a teenager or whatever, and you brush your teeth. Does it require any energy to brush your teeth? The answer typically is no. Why is that? Because accountability for a while, right, helped you get the thing done that you needed to get done. And now it is a habit and it requires absolutely no energy. So think about if you got things in your life, like you want to make the right choices around food, you want to have the right choices around like your phone usage, right? I'm here on my phone on TikTok, phone usage, the right choices on sleep. I think I already said, right? Or the right choices about flexibility and mobility, the visualization, stuff like that. Imagine if that was as easy as brushing your teeth, right? But that's what habits do. That's exactly what habits do. That's what I'm saying. Small habits lead to big success. Okay? Really, really big one. Change your habits, change your life. Cool. Number 6, the long game always wins. Fast progress feels good, but the swimmers who dominate are the ones who keep stacking seasons after season after season and not just weeks. Okay? We're, and life is tends to be like a long-term play. You know, like you see it in business, you see it in relationships. If you're in for a quick win, it feels good for the ego, but it's not sustainable, you know, or then like if the progress isn't as fast anymore, then we get demotivated and then we kind of fall off the wagon, right? And we never get to like the full potential. Okay. We never get to the full potential. So we got to play the long game. We got to play the long game. Extend your time horizons, right? It is not the end of the world if you make a mistake, because if you have a long enough time horizon, you can figure out anything. But if you have to succeed in your mind in this week or in the next month, you absolutely have to. That creates so much pressure, right? And there's no wiggle, there's no room to like try new things and be curious and experiment because you can't fail. But you have a long enough time horizon, you can learn anything in the world. Like you can. Right? So you just gotta extend the time horizon and and think in like, you know, seasons and not just like, all right. I hope you get what I mean. It's like, of course, we want to know what it is that we need to get done in terms of process goals, right? That's another one that I talked about in the previous episode. Really important. But at the same time, yeah, you know, you want to, it's difficult to have a long time horizon because we want to get the reward now, right? And I want it too. I want it now as well. Believe me, I'm no different. And your parents will say, like, we're all the same. We want to be rewarded now. But if we can delay that, we can delay it. We'll start to think bigger, right? And when things don't go according to plan, it's okay because we're thinking in seasons, okay? Right? And we're stacking them, stacking them, stacking them, stacking it. And when you do that, like when you look back at your own life, I mean, just look what in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, how far you come, right? Stacking season after season after season. Extending. It's very, very good skill to have to play around with the time horizons to like shrink a time horizon and to extend the time horizon. So for example, right, when you know that something might be coming your way that is going to be painful for you. Like I give you an example. If you have short course nationals coming up in November, right, and you're afraid that you're going to do terrible there because you're nervous, what you want to do is you want to shrink. You want to shrink that timeline to the now, because if you're thinking, oh, that terrible outcome is only coming in 3 months, it will be very easy to find excuses not to do the right thing right now. But if you shrink the timeline, and it's literally like if you do the right thing right now, you'll not have the painful outcome. And if you don't do the thing right now, you'll have this painful outcome today or tomorrow. You're going to be much more likely to move. Does that make sense? Right? And the same thing, like when we're dreaming big, we want to like extend the time horizon, because when we extend the time horizon, so many bigger things are possible and realistic with the long enough time horizon, that becomes very exciting. Okay, so this is like a big skill to have, to like play with that. And because motivation is a complex thing, but like playing with these time horizons is very, very powerful, right? See, like for me, it's like paying tax. There's like deadlines, right? If I'm not paying taxes, and then if I have to, well, I'll do it because there's this deadline, right? If I just put that deadline to, if they just said, okay, you got to pay taxes tomorrow, well, then guess what? I'll pay it today. It's just a deadline that somebody else gives to us. But like, imagine if you could give yourself deadlines, that would be a lot more powerful. Because the crazy thing is that when we need to do things for other people, and they give us a deadline, like schoolwork or something, like a paper you got to turn in, right? You actually get it done. But then the things where where it's you are responsible for it, and nobody else gives you the timeline or the deadline, you don't do it, or I don't do it. Okay, just true. Okay, cool. And the last one, and this is probably like, well, they're all important, but this one is big realization to have. And once you really, really understand that, you will be free. So the last one is number 7 is you are not your times. Swim free and not fearful. Okay. The first step, if you identify as a swimmer, I know you have goals. I know you want to get better. You want to push yourself and all of that. And you're devastated if you train a lot and then don't have a good time. I get it. So I am a swimmer. If I swim badly, that means I'm a piece of shit and nobody likes me and I disappoint everybody. Okay. If you have that, the thing that it's not true. Okay. First of all, it's not true for, I don't want to go into it now because it's like it's a huge kind of topic. Um, but the thing that I encourage you to do, just as a little hack, if you're a swimmer and you're listening to that, what I would do, I would think about all the people that you're worried about disappointing and make a list of these people. So these might be your parents, it may be your brother, your sister, your coach, your friends, maybe people who believe in you, mentors, people who give you money, like whatever, right? Could be a cat, your dog, I don't care. Make a list of that, and then start with the easiest one, which is probably oftentimes not your parents, but could be, right? It depends on you. But start with the easiest one that feels the easiest to you and go to them and be like, hey, what do you think of me when I train really hard and I get really nervous and I swim like shit? Ask them, right? Ask them how they feel about that, how it makes them feel towards you, right? And then they'll give you an answer. And I can promise you, with the parents, you can be more direct. You can go to the parents and be like, hey, dad, do you still love me when I swim like shit in a competition? Right? And they'll give you an answer. And then that is the answer. And then your job as a swimmer is to go, yeah, not to go, yeah, but it's to listen to what your dad or your mom is saying and then take that to your heart. Because my guess is that 99.9% of the parents will say, I love you no matter what, which I mean, severely hope that will be the case. I can almost guarantee it. At least all the parents I've spoken to, they'll like laugh, maybe even be teary, give you a hug, right? And tell you I love you no matter what, right? And so you are not your times. The value that you bring to this world does not depend on the times that you swim. And funnily, paradoxically, the more you worry about swimming a certain time, the less likely you're actually, at least like in competition, that's true. It's like the less likely you are to actually get that time, if you know what. Okay. So recap: hard work beats talent. Number 1. Number 2, consistency beats intensity. Number 3, winners collect reps, not excuses. Number 4, the best swimmers don't avoid nerves, they master them. Number 5, small habits lead to big results. Number 6, the long game always wins. And number 7, you are not your times. Swim free, not fearful. Okay. Hopefully that was useful. That's all I wanted to cover for today. My mom is here with my daughter, so I'm gonna go play. If you have any questions about those 7 truths that I wish I knew when I was younger, hit me up, put in the comments. I'll read all of them. And if you're interested in the announcement of the swim camps for the 25-26 season, then also write in the comments. I'm happy to send you a link to register where we give more information. We do have, by the way, if you're on Instagram or Facebook, even TikTok, I just posted this morning. I posted the official after movie that we have for the camp. We gave it to a video editor with like tons of like footage and stuff, and I absolutely loved it. I think he picked a really good sound check and everything. So check that out. Some impressions of the stuff that we do.